Now we're looking at the sexual attraction, the spiritual attraction as one is the same, and it's all about specific medicine, specific frequencies or reflections in the other that we're attracted to for far more existential and multifaceted reasons. During a spiritual awakening, we become more self-aware as to what we are attracting and why we are attracted to the people that we are attracted to. So today, I'm going to be explaining the spiritual side of our sexual attraction and our romantic attraction to others. Romantic attraction is not arbitrary and it's not random at all. In fact, it is divine. And the reason why is because attraction has different points that it is responding to, but it is always responding to the unconscious or the shadow. Now, we don't typically think of our shadow as holding a lot of positivity or divinity, but actually, the majority of our divinity is held inside our unconscious or our shadow. And because of that, we're actually attracted to not just our wounding and not just our karma, but also we're attracted to our higher self, which is stored within that subconscious. At specific levels of consciousness, attraction works differently. For instance, at its most base level of consciousness, a person is attracted to specifically the very opposite of whatever they are. So if they, for instance, are very, very passive, hyper passive, they are sexually attracted very strongly to the opposite of that. So what that would mean is that they're probably going to be very attracted to somebody who's not passive at all, somebody who's very action-oriented, who could care for them a lot, who could provide for them, and who can give them the survival and safety that they need. So if someone is very passive and then they have no higher spiritual consciousness going on, what they're going to look for is something specifically that is just hyper or something that is very robust in the opposite direction. So it can be specifically in the realm of survival, because that's the level of consciousness that we first all need to suffice. This is a need of all of ours. And so survivalism in all the different ways that can apply. So it's going to be specific to each person. Survivalism to one person is going to look different, feel different, and have different needs based off of each person. And so another person's version of what they specifically feel is for their safety and survival will not always be everyone's. But even though I just said that, there's core survivalism that we all need, such as with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The base level contains the survivalism that everyone needs. It doesn't matter how high of a level of consciousness we're operating at. And at that base level, all of us need water. We need a roof over our heads. We need other people. We need food. And sometimes, we need to breathe. So for some of us, our attraction is rooted here in this dominant level of consciousness. That doesn't mean that our attraction can't rise above that level of consciousness into a higher one just beyond our survivalism, but it might have its dominant point of attraction and its dominant level of consciousness here in the first base level, which is more physical, survival based. And nothing is wrong with any of that. You cannot superimpose judgment onto whatever a person's attraction is or their sexuality even. So because of that, it's only to be understood what's going on. And at this base level, that's when the dominant form of our attraction to others is either based off of what we can physically provide for them and their survival, or what they can physically provide for us and our survival. Now, once we go higher into our soul's evolution, once we go higher into a spiritual awakening and into higher consciousness levels, our attraction starts getting more nuanced. And because of that, it's not so clear cut as, well, that person can provide me physical safety, or I can provide that person physical safety. That is a baseline for many people, but not all people need that for their strongest level of romantic attraction. Our romantic attraction starts getting more multifold and more nuanced the higher up in consciousness we go. And that's because what we're really attracted to at that point is the law of attraction. So many of us know in the spiritual community what the law of attraction means, but we don't understand it from a different perspective. And because of that, we don't fully know the whole version of what the law of attraction is. We might think of it as, well, we attract positive or beneficial things into our reality the more that we become a match to that, or we attract negative or detrimental experiences to us if we are a vibrational match to that. But the law of attraction isn't just responding to whatever we want to manifest or whatever we wish to not experience. The law of attraction can be looked at as the law of correspondence and the law of one. So if we're looking at it from this level of the law of one being the law of attraction, which is a bold comparison I know I'm making, but bear with me. If the law of attraction and the law of one are two different sides of the same coin, then the law of attraction is attracting you into one. What does this mean? It means that at a higher spiritual level, sexuality, even our sexual attraction, if not our romantic attraction to others, is all a part of our spiritual lessons and our spiritual evolution, because it's attracting us through the law of attraction to wholeness, to one. So it's about our soul's journey into our higher self. And I'll give you a perfect example of this. How come so many people are this borderline obsessed, infatuated with any prophet that we look at that was a spiritual master in our past? The level of bhakti, the level of devotion is on the verge of romance sometimes. You could hear in people's devotion and their admiration for them. Why? It's because ultimately our higher power, our higher self, resides deeply within all of us. We've heard this as the God inside all dwells within us. So God is within. So because of that, you could look at it kind of like God, your higher self, that source or oneness is deep within your own subconscious or your shadow. So because of that, we see a reflection of that. We see a physical representation or symbol of that within some form of prophet. And that's why we have such high levels of affection and adoration for them. It doesn't need to be romantic, but my point is that you see that level of focused admiration and love given to that. And that is why we're attracted to whoever we're attracted to. We're attracted to them at a specific level of our own spiritual evolution. Once we're out of our basic scarcity consciousness or survival consciousness, once we start evolving more and our attraction becomes more nuanced, now what we're doing is seeing a muse of the divine, of source within the other. And that's what we become attracted to. We're attracted to our own God within our subconscious. And so what our subconscious is doing is projecting our ideal of what divinity is. And that's what we're attracted to. It's our ideal, because divinity can come in so many different forms and versions that it's what we specifically find the most ideal form of divinity. And that's what we're attracted to in another. So what we're doing is actually seeking the internal representation of God within the other. So who we're attracted to and what they represent or why we're attracted to them is ultimately a healing going on, because the law of attraction is attracting us to that for unity or because of the law of one. So we're attracted to somebody because that's a healing taking place. And that healing taking place is an integration. You could look at healing and integration always as two sides of the same coin. Integration is healing, and healing is the act of integrating. So because of that, when we're attracted to somebody, we're always, even if we don't know this, even if we have no clue in the conscious mind what's going on, a healing is taking place, and we're attracted to something that represents to us integration, and not just any form of integration, not just integration of ourselves in this lifetime. At a higher level of consciousness, you are no longer just operating in the basic level of consciousness and that point of attraction. So when a being starts operating in the higher levels of consciousness, sexual attraction as well as romantic attraction aren't so cut and dry. At that point, you're looking at things from the soul's journey and the soul stream rather than just in this specific incarnation and whatever you need for your basic survivalism. Although that is valid and it should never be left out of a person's sexuality. But at the higher levels of consciousness, now we're starting to look at things from more like a crystal. And what is a crystal? It has many different prisms in it. And so it's even more, one could say, of a healing that our attraction is based off of at this higher level of consciousness. And even though it's not trauma-based, trauma always takes a part. It always plays a role in anything. It's just that trauma might not be the main source and the main driving force of what's going on at a higher spiritual level. For instance, if a person has a very high level of consciousness and they find themselves consistently attracted to people who can do very earthbound, functional, physical things in the material world, like put their hands in dirt and garden, or do archery, or carve furniture from wood. These things can all represent a specific medicine for that other being's soul, which is to be more in the physical realm and to be more grounded here in this experience in order to balance out and help integrate their higher level of consciousness. And that's just one example of how the earth element and people who embody the earth element can really be able to be a medicine for another element. And so they work in all these different directions. Some of them might be completely counterintuitive. It might not be the earthbound would be the perfect medicine for that higher individual's consciousness. So it really depends. I'm just giving one simple example of how that would be a perfect form of romantic and sexual attraction that might look arbitrary, and it might look like we're attracted to somebody always of a specific type, and in reality, they're representing a specific medicine. And that's really what attraction is based off of. Look at the things that we're attracted to, the people who represent whatever that is that we find attractive in them or attractive about them as a specific medicine, because that's entirely what our attraction represents once we start going through a spiritual awakening. Before we go through a spiritual awakening, we're still attracted to people for divine reasons, but it's all being played out in a lower level of consciousness. And there's nothing against that. I'm just trying to point out the nuances here so that people have more clarity. It's not about bashing lower, middle, higher. So at the lower level of consciousness, it's less dynamic, it's less nuanced. We're going to be looking at specifically whatever we need to heal within ourselves. And that's the second point that I brought up in the beginning of this video. We're either attracted to our higher self or attracted to our wounding. So what would our wounding be in this case? Still divine, right? We're still going through healing. It's still representing things within us. So at this level, it's not that it's less divine than when we're attracted to some sort of image, archetype, or muse of our higher self, But in this case, what we're attracted to when we're attracted to a karmic situation or something that represents the opposite of what we think is divine, to the point where we go, why are we attracted to that person? When we're in a karmic cycle like that, when we're attracted to somebody that we don't actually think is a representative of our higher self or our ideal form of divinity, then what we're actually stuck in is we're stuck in a karmic loop that needs to be acknowledged, become aware of, and healed. And then you'll notice on your own, without you doing anything, without you doing a mental technique, without you forcing yourself to move on or anything, what you'll notice is that it integrates. You will be able to integrate whatever that person who we're attracted to them for some form of representation of a wound. And I'll give you a really strong clue where that wound came from. It came from childhood. Even if it came from a past life, it was still playing out through the portal or the intersection point of our childhood. So when we're looking at parental wounds or guardian wounds or even abandonment wounds, whatever it is having to do with some form of guardian or parent that was not there, the absence of it, or that was there and there was some form of conflict, trauma, drama, whatever it is, that is going to be played out in our romantic partners. That's going to be played out in what we are attracted to in another. Until we resolve it and until we heal it, we're not stuck in that karmic loop. We're not stuck in that karmic cycle. What it's meant to do is actually help us. Now, even when we're using these two major categories of what we're attracted to, we're either attracted to what is the God within us and what is our divinity, or we're attracted to our karma, something that's wounded, something that needs to be healed and resolved within us. These are the two major categories of what we're attracted to. And they're both inside our shadow. So even within that, there's still a bunch of different points of attraction and sub-themes that are feeding into our attraction. So for instance, if we're attracted to something that's more karmic or wounded or something that's representing within us a form of healing, then at that point, what we're attracted to can also be something that we're in complete denial of, something we're in judgment of inside ourselves, or that could be something that we have felt we lost. That's where soul retrievals and soul loss come into play. And that's major when it comes to attraction. So we could be attracted to something that we feel was lost within us, or something that we lack within us, or something that was never developed within our soul yet, something along those lines. But also, if we're attracted more to our inner God, and we're looking at symbolisms and representatives of something that we're attracted to that already embodies that, then that means that what's feeding into that category is also we're looking at someone and we're finding them attractive for something that we feel like is highly valuable in whatever sense that that's personal to us. So a lot of times when we find ourselves romantically attracted to someone and we start getting really frustrated with how they're behaving and how they're acting towards us, sometimes we innocently don't actually start examining why we're attracted to them. Because let's say someone is behaving in a way where it's very unattractive. Let's call it like very blasé, not responsible, and you start tapping into a time where you go, wow, that reminds me of maybe age 15 like behavior, right? Not fully developed yet, still maturing. So it doesn't need to always be like straight up like a horrible wound. It could just be something where you're tapping into how someone's treating you in your partnership, and you're starting to tune in, and it doesn't feel like mature, aware energy. It could feel something like age 15, just giving one example because the collective right now is dealing with age 15 type attractions. So with that, sometimes innocently we don't look at ourselves and go, am I a 15-year-old still somewhere within me that needs something? If you're attracted to someone who's displaying behaviors or maturity levels of age 15, just giving a random age, then there is a 15-year-old within you that is wanting some sort of resolution, is wanting some form of acknowledgement, of awareness. Because once we start healing what needs to be acknowledged and made aware and embraced within us, really given our full presence, you will not even need to worry about or be frustrated with or rely on your significant other, because at a certain point of your own healing, you will no longer be attracted to that type of behavior or that time frame or whatever is being represented by the lack thereof or by the deficiency that you are even attracted to in that person. You no longer find that attribute or that behavior or that quality attractive. So it's not about making the person become that. It's not about being frustrated and being in a karmic cycle or whatever and fighting with them. It's about now you've become aware and you've been healing whatever it is that needed the attention, that was drawing it magnetically to whatever we were attracted to in that. So one could look at it as we're always attracted to something to be aware of. And that awareness could either be something that is of our wholeness, something that is representing our higher self, or something that is representing an aspect of us that needs our love, that needs our attention, and seeks our presence. So when we shift our attraction, now we're attracted to whatever else is our new curriculum. So we're always attracted to something for a very important reason for our growth. It's just about understanding what it is that we're attracted to, that other person represents and symbolizes. So if now, let's say we're starting to become attracted to something that we would consider more healthy, that would be considered a balancing taking place, but a balancing of our internal energies that's represented by who we're attracted to. So it would be a balancing at a soul level for our soul's evolution. But also, if we're attracted to somebody from our wounding or from our karmic cycles, karma is the ultimate balancing. It's literally the balancing of scales. So no matter what, there's a balancing taking place. It's just whether that balancing is coming from something unresolved or whether we're attracted to somebody because they're representing a balancing that can take place within our soul's own union, our soul's own evolution into the higher self. But there's always a balancing taking place. And so that's what attraction is based off of. And that's why we see balancing also played out through polarities. Because what do polarities do? They balance each other out. And so when we're looking at the polarity of masculine and feminine energies that are taking place within each individual, it's not so clear cut the higher up in consciousness you go, because it's not about whether or not there's a specific type of equal and opposite energy within who you're attracted to. That does happen and that does take place. But at a higher consciousness level, you're now more balanced, whether that was before this lifetime and you came into this lifetime more balanced, or whether you went through a spiritual awakening and you have drastically shifted your awareness and therefore your needs and therefore what you find attractive, healing in the other. And so because of that, it's about balancing now the polarity of masculine and feminine energies within each person, and then how that relates to the other person who they're attracted to. And so because of that, Now what you're looking at is ratios, and they're not clear-cut ratios anymore. Now you're looking at if somebody has 40%, if we could put percentages on our energies of polarities and genders, 40% feminine energy, but they express themselves and they seek 60% masculine energy in the other, because that would be what they're attracted to for their own soul's evolution. Now do you see how the masculine energy and the feminine energy each have a spectrum that ultimately bleed into one another because they're a part of the same totality. They're not separate. But let's just pretend that the masculine and feminine energies are separate and they have a spectrum. Both masculine energy has a spectrum, feminine energy has a spectrum. And how each of us have embodied and integrated our own energies is what we will then seek as the medicine in another person. So what we're going to seek as the medicine in another person, aka what we're going to be attracted to romantically, is someone that can provide the balancing ratios, the harmony of ratios within our own spectrum. So that process of attraction can start becoming very highly nuanced and very fine-tuned. And that's why you see all the spiritual masters don't have a definable counterpart. It's not because they don't have a counterpart, and there's nothing wrong with having partnership and a counterpart, but what that's representing is the fact that the energies, the polarities within one have been so balanced and have become so harmonized that at a specific point, attraction cannot be such a base level where it's as clear cut as you're attracted to whatever the equal and opposite is. It's not Newtonian at that point. Now we're looking at the sexual attraction or the spiritual attraction as one is the same, and it's all about specific medicine, specific frequencies or reflections in the other that we're attracted to for far more existential and multifaceted reasons, all that have to do with the next best step for our own consciousness. It's always involving whatever we find attractive and whatever we are attracted to. You could just substitute that in with that is our consciousness's next best step towards its own union with Source or its own wholeness within itself. Because our energy field you could look at is an aura, and it displays specific colors within it. And those colors even are emitting specific themes. Those colors represent not just our mood, they're not just a mood ring, they're representing emotional temperaments. They're representing information stored within our field. And so you can look at our whole energy field and our aura being a representative of that process of attraction, because the more that we are attracted to whatever person we're attracted to, and we're learning through that muse, we're learning through that symbolism and that connection, we're now creating that type of medicine, or we're extracting those frequencies that are making us more whole. So we're integrating through other people and through specifically attraction. And because of that, what that does to our own aura, it starts transforming into our light body, into more of diamond colored light, not false light. Because now we're getting more unified within our aura, more unified within our field. So you could look at it also like our aura is seeking out, aka attracting specific romantic attraction or sexual attraction to others based off of what that medicine in our aura will bring it for its own healing, for its own awareness, for its own integration. So what we find valuable could be something like our own potential. We could find someone attractive and be attracted to them because they represent within us our own peak potential, our whole actualized self, or a specific quality that we're attracted to in somebody that we either feel we lack or something that we have and we really find attractive even within ourselves, because like attracts like. And I know that might be confusing because we only think opposites attract, but actually the higher up in the scale you go of consciousness, like attracts like. The reason that like attracts like is because the more you raise your consciousness, you have become more self-loving and a more conscious and loving being in general. So you are attracted to like individuals. For instance, if you are becoming more self-aware, you will be attracted to someone who is becoming more self-aware. If you are embodying more self-love and becoming more accountable, you will be attracted to someone who shares that core likeness and is also accountable or becoming more self-accountable. So like attracts like is not referring to you and your partner being exactly like one another. It's referring to the sheer amount of suffering and draining that happens when you and your partner are clearly not even walking in the same direction together towards consciousness. Like attracts like is referring to your vibrational match and your resonance with your partner. The absolute perfect ratio and the perfect sweet spot for our romantic attraction is to have like attracts like and opposites attract at the same time, which, believe me, is more common than you may think. This is opposite energies that complement one another, like the yin and yang, where they enhance the expression of each other the way that shadows cast upon a light produce contour effects, and a core likeness in nature all at once. In fact, opposites attract and like attracts like are really referring to the same exact thing. The only difference is that one of them is a direct reflection we are attracting, and the other one is an inverted reflection we are attracting. And that's the only difference. So what you might find highly attractive in another is actually a quality or a potential or some sort of attribute that you have cultivated within yourself to a very strong and mature degree. And then that is seeking also its external mirror. So that's seeking its union in the external as well. So there's so many different points of attraction that make up why we're attracted to whoever we're attracted to. A lot of the times we might think that it's wrong or that it's all wounding when we're attracted to somebody who represents one of our parents. But actually, that can go both ways. That can be something where we're attracted to them because we're in some karmic cycle and it's playing out a parental wound, which is the majority of the time, but also that can be a healing as well. And that's why we should not be judging people for their attraction when, let's say, one woman is attracted to somebody who represents, let's say, not their father figure, but let's say what they wanted in the ideal father figure, and vice versa. And then apply that in every other way too. We can't really judge if somebody is getting a beneficial healing experience and their own soul's growth from having a partner that would actually be the healthy form of whatever that parental energy is. Because at the end of the day, we're all just reparenting ourselves. We're all reparenting ourselves anyways. So whether we're aware of it or not, we're assigning people specific types of roles that are of a parental nature sometimes. And so if we're aware of that, then what you can do is actually find healthy and conscious partnership in somebody who is actually being the healthy form of whatever there was a developmental wound for. That's why the best partners I've seen are aware and healing those parental wounds by being each other's healthy maternal energy or healthy paternal energy. I hope this has helped your diamond body. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for higher dimensional guidance through spiritual awakening. See you next time.